In some ways, sustainability is all about stuff. It's about the stuff we make, the stuff we buy, who has access to stuff, how that stuff impacts communities, and what we do with stuff once we're done with it. And of course, it should also be about making and buying less stuff. But regardless of how much we have, all the stuff we make, buy, and use has to be designed. Like someone designed the wheel, which was so good that we regularly say it doesn't need to be improved. And someone else designed lids on pill bottles, which depending on how you look at it was either super successful or a disaster. They're not just child-proof, they're everyone-proof. It might seem like the greatest designs are the result of eureka moments, and the pill bottle was the result of whatever the opposite of eureka is. But a lot of the design process is just that, a process made up of a lot of little choices and a lot of hard work. The same is true with sustainable design. When it comes to designing products that are good for people and the environment, we can try to reinvent the wheel, but we don't always have to. Hi, I'm Miriam Nielsen, and this is Study Hall Sustainability. The design process usually starts with a goal. Like maybe someone wanted to design the most convenient way to get around, or the safest pill bottle, or the most comfortable shirt, or the most sustainable shoe. Achieving that goal has to be part of the process right from the very beginning. So say you're part of a team that's been tasked with designing a super sustainable pair of shoes. And this amazing pair of new kicks needs to scream, I'm not a basic nerd, I'm a cool nerd. And also I care a lot about the planet. That's a lot of things for a shoe to say, but your team is up for the challenge. One of the first steps in designing a truly sustainable item is doing a life cycle assessment. That means researching a product's environmental footprint at every stage of its life, from sourcing materials to disposing of the product when it's no longer useful. Your team gets together to map out your shoe's life cycle, and you start by discussing materials. Many shoes are made with synthetic materials like plastics, and that's a problem for a few reasons. First, most plastics are made from oil, and extracting oil from the earth and processing it into plastics can expose workers to harmful chemicals like hydrogen sulfide, which can cause respiratory and other health concerns. That whole process also uses a lot of water and takes a lot of energy. In fact, the production of a typical pair of running shoes is responsible for about 14 kilograms of carbon dioxide, which is the same amount emitted from a gasoline-powered car driving 40 miles. And then those materials just continue to exist long after your shoes have gone out of style. In the US alone, we throw away more than 300 million pairs of shoes every year, and 95% of those end up in landfills, where they can sit for decades or even centuries, since plastic doesn't break down on its own. When those shoes do degrade, they can contaminate soil and water with heavy metals from dyes and chemicals like polyurethane, which also come with health risks. Your team has to figure out how to avoid all of those issues, since you want your drip to be sick and sustainable. You want to design sneakers that are made with materials and processes that don't harm people or the environment. You want the shoes to last and biodegrade or be recycled when consumers are done with them. And of course, you want them to look good and be affordable so people will want to wear them. You look for ways to source materials from suppliers that minimize their carbon footprint and are located close to your workshop. You consider both natural materials like wool and bamboo and new human-made materials like bacteria-based bioplastics that can biodegrade at the end of the shoe's life. You find people who are developing eco-friendly dyes that don't poison the people making the shoes or leach into groundwater and poison everything else. That will minimize your environmental impact both during manufacturing and for the entire life of the shoe. You come up with creative ways to use unique materials to make a shoe that's just as comfortable, durable, and stylish as any shoe made from plastic. Then you sit back and wait for your shoe to change the world. Until you realize you're still in the planning meeting talking about the life cycle assessment. Your team hasn't actually done anything yet. Plus, you still have to figure out how your company can make sure their own manufacturing processes and factories treat employees well, use less water and energy, and produce less waste. Then you'll need to figure out sustainable package design, marketing, and distribution. And if you plan for recycling to be part of your shoe's life cycle, the company needs to have a plan in place to make sure people can actually recycle the shoes. Not to mention, you have to convince your managers and the boss and the shareholders that this is all going to be a good idea. If they're not on board, you might be back at square one. And say that's what happens. The shareholders tell you not to reinvent the wheel on this one. They aren't convinced that new materials are the way to go, so your team has to think about another approach, a shoe made from recycled or upcycled materials. Recycling and upcycling can be a sustainable design solution that funnels used products away from landfills and into new life cycles, eliminating waste in the process. Instead of rotting away in a landfill or polluting the ocean, recycling and upcycling gives products new life. This cradle-to-cradle approach creates less waste and new products, which is a win-win. Ideally, there wouldn't be all this plastic waste in the first place, but upcycling and recycling can at least help to stem some of the damage from existing unsustainable products. This approach can apply to everything from shoes to homes. And more we're seeing companies advertising products made completely or partly from recycled plastics, rubber, and polyester. For example, a global environmental organization called Parley for the Oceans created a supply chain to collect discarded plastic to keep it out of our oceans. They process it into new fiber that has been used to make things like shoes, clothing, sunglasses, and reusable totes to make sure you never need another disposable plastic bag again. A company called For Ocean pulls plastic out of the ocean and makes and sells bracelets with recycled plastic. Rothy's collects plastic from coastlines and makes thread from plastic bottles, which they use to make shoes and bags. And a company called Mater makes outdoor furniture from old fishing nets and recycled plastic. Another organization called Upcycle Africa provides training for rural women, youth, and low-income families in Uganda to build homes from plastic bottles filled with soil. This solution not only uses plastic waste, it also provides jobs in affordable homes and eliminates the need for traditional bricks, which are fired in kilns that contribute to deforestation, emit greenhouse gases, and cause respiratory disease. In this case, sustainable design isn't about creating something brand new or using new materials or technologies. It's about creatively solving a problem by using something old in a new way. It's not reinventing the wheel, it's just making it from recycled rubber instead of new rubber. And in fact, even the most innovative, creative, brand new sustainable design solution probably isn't entirely original. Like we were talking about using natural materials like wool and bamboo in our super sustainable sneakers, and well, using those materials is a very, very old idea. Lots of our design solutions and technologies come from or are inspired by nature, which makes sense. Nature has had a multi-billion-year head start when it comes to consistently thinking up elegant and useful designs. When we watch and learn from nature and adapt its successful strategies to launch our own groundbreaking ideas, it's called biomimicry. And taking inspiration from nature for design is called biomimetic design. For example, airplanes were originally inspired by birds. Velcro was based on the super spiky burrs from burdock plants. Shark skin inspired the development of super fast, drag-resistant swimwear, some of which worked so well it was banned from competition. And those barefoot shoes were inspired by our feet when we're not wearing shoes at all. Nature can inspire sustainable design solutions too, like the German company Amsilk was inspired by spider webs. Turns out they're not just great for spooky season, the silk in spider webs is up to 5 times stronger than steel for its size, and Amsilk thought that could be super useful. They transferred the genetic code from a spider's thread to bacteria grown in a bioreactor, which creates silk proteins. Then they use those proteins to create biosteel yarn, a material that mimics the lightness and strength of spider silk. It's been used to make shoes, athletic clothing, watch bands, and even medical equipment. Like a spider web, and unlike synthetic materials, biosteel yarn is 100% biodegradable, and as a bonus, it's also 100% less sticky and panic-inducing than actual spiderwebs. A team of bird-loving engineers in Japan also took inspiration from nature when they needed to redesign their bullet trains. When the trains went through tunnels, the high speed resulted in a literal sonic boom that disturbed residents hundreds of meters away. The engineers had observed how kingfishers use their slender bills to enter bodies of water without making a splash, which makes it easier to track their prey. So to decrease the pressure waves bullet trains generated entering tunnels, engineers changed the shape of the train's nose so that it was similar to a kingfisher's bill. With this design, the bullet train went faster while creating less noise and less disturbance for people in the area. As an added bonus, it also used less energy since the streamlined design reduced drag and increased efficiency. All this to say, sometimes our ideas, solutions, and designs are truly brand new and groundbreaking. Maybe we do figure out how to reinvent the wheel to come up with an entirely new product, material, or process, like a super sustainable shoe made from bioplastic. But we don't always have to. Lots of good, creative work comes from thinking of new ways to use old materials, like a shoe made from recycled plastic, or coming up with new applications for old ideas, like studying the way our feet already work in order to make new, lightweight, flexible shoes. In other words, sometimes in sustainable design, the eureka moments come from looking around, noticing the problems and solutions that already exist, and getting to work. If you're enjoying this series and are interested in taking the full Study Hall Sustainability course and earning college credit from ASU, check out gostudyhall.com or click on the button to learn more. And if you want to help us out, give this video a like, tell us about something you've upcycled instead of throwing it away, and smash that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, see you next time.